Hi, my name is Jason, and tonight I will be walking through these piles of cards. It's a collection that I bought from Japan. You don't really see too many of these too often anymore, so today I'll be walking through the cards that were included in this lot. It's about 250 or so cards, and just going to talk through my thought process in deciding to make this purchase and just a general exercise for me to go through all the cards, not necessarily condition checking everything for like grade or no grade, but going to be separating them into a few different piles that allows me to move forward with logging everything into my inventory system. So, without further ado, background here is I found this collection on Mercari Japan and used Bai to make the purchase and get it shipped over here. So I paid tariffs on it. I will show the Mercari page in a second. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. I did go through this when unpacking it earlier when it came, and I will say I do think this is going to end up being a great purchase. And as mentioned, just going to walk through the thought process with this as well. So here's the Mercari listing, and you can see how much I paid, $13,000, and I almost couldn't believe it at first when like I saw this listing because as I mentioned, you don't really see too many vintage collections anymore on Mercari, and if you do, they are priced at like astronomical rates. And I think on the surface, 2 million yen or $13,000 US is obviously not it's a non-trivial amount of money, and usually the rule of thumb with Mercari purchases being it's kind of like the Wild Wild West using Bai, you basically get no buyer protection. You might as well just buy it and hope that what you bought shows up in as accurate condition as possible and live with the result. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. And typically over the years, you could get away with blind buying off of Mercari. But as of late, there's more and more scams, et cetera, et cetera. That's a whole other topic. But this is typically something that this type of listing is something that people would stay away from because you can't see like all the cards in the photos. You can kind of like make out based on the edges what's there. And then as you click through some of the photos, you can kind of see what's included. But here's this Arcanine's a favorite. The hollow is beautiful, but I'm gonna talk through a few of the factors that led to me making the purchase. And first is gonna be these lists of cards that are included in the lot. Obviously, everything's in katakana. So all the card names, you have to be able to read Japanese to like scan through this really fast, or you can kind of go off of the numbers here for the promos. If you know those, you can get a sense of what's included. So everything is sectioned off very like nicely and organized, and this section is a promo section, so it lists out all the promos that are included. And that was one green flag because I think most normal people like wouldn't even go through like with listing everything so meticulously. And then there is a photo limit, so they tried to include like as many. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you just take a few photos and get tired of it, and you're like, all right, screw this. I'm just gonna list everything out. So that may be what the seller decided to do. And then so that was one factor. A lot of work was put into the listing and listing out everything that was going to be claimed to be included. And when referencing that against the picture here with some of the edges, you can see there's a touch change generation and some CD promos here. There's a Mew, Ancient Mew. There's a CD promo or a Game Boy Venusaur. So you can, as mentioned, you can kind of make out what's included. There's Shadowless Alakazam here. And then the other factor too is the description. Usually, like after reading the description on something on Mercari, you can kind of tell like where it's headed. This is one of those like walked it out of the closet type collections. The elementary school days, parents' house, and another kind of confirmation will be shown in the actual cards themselves in a second. And you could just tell the description's a little more personalized. And seller states that they sold a Charizard already. They don't want to sell them individually, hence the bulk lot. And then, for me personally, in my opinion, a seller, you can tell a seller is pretty legit, especially like when they're selling a bunch of random stuff. It's like it literally is a garage sale on this person's Mercari account. This is like all stuff from like the closet, old belongings they don't use anymore, just secondhand goods, which is a really big thing over there. It's just like the whole recycle, the concept of selling things you don't need anymore, space constraints, etc. You could make an argument that's a low wage in Japan, so you really do have to like maximize like what you have against what it's worth and what it's worth could be doing for you in your life to kind of get by. You can see that all the backgrounds of the items are all the same. You're just putting them on the floor and taking a picture of it. So there's a lot of games, some New Japan stuff, Perfume Blu-ray, so some manga. So very clearly a man of culture. So that was one. That's another giveaway that this is pretty legitimate. So you can kind of take a calculated risk that what you buy off of people's accounts on Mercari is what you will receive. It's yet another topic to go kind of deeper on of like protecting yourself when making purchases from Mercari Japan. And obviously this one is on a much different scale. And for me, it was a calculated risk that I was comfortable with taking. So let's go ahead and move this window back over here so I can see what I'm looking at. And yeah, I'm just going to start going through the cards. And as mentioned, I'll be dividing them into essentially 3 piles. One is actually changing the sleeves out of all these. And then 2 would be to just do a very quick kind of front and back check of the card. And what I'll be doing is essentially a bulk pile of cards where the cards maybe the Southern Islands Primeape with the issue in the corner. Those are going to be kind of like the cheapies of the collection or this energy. The second would be like mid-tier cards, which probably between $50 to $100, $50 to $150. And those are going to be like borderline grade decisions. And then last pile are going to be the anchors of the collection. So in looking at that list of cards, provided there's Karen's Umbreon on there, Dragonite, Trainer Magazine promo, whole bunch of other stuff that you'll see of like, oh, like maybe that's why I bought the collection. And there's not going to be any sort of like dollar amount of like each card adding up to what I paid on the lot. And that's before tariffs too. But like for those who for those who know, I guess, to be blunt, you can make your own decision on whether I, as the young people like to say, whether I cooked myself on this lot or not. So that's that. I don't really have too much to say outside of that, so it'll really just be a working session at this point. But I'll probably call out the cards that I decided to, like, that made me decide to buy the lot. And yeah, I'll stop yapping and actually go through these. And as mentioned earlier, you can tell this is somebody's childhood collection based on the quality of the sleeve used. And I can say for sure that like most of these cards are LP, like that MP LP. There are some that are really clean that I looked at, so we'll get to those later. This one's got a nice swirl there. This is a bulk card. So I'll try not to spend too much time appreciating each card, but yeah, that is part of the process. Especially when processing a larger lot like this, it does require some sit down time, and this is one of my favorite parts of doing this is just being able to like go through cards like this, look at the condition, have a closer look at like hollows, and maybe sometimes it's a card that you know haven't seen before or haven't had in inventory for a long time. Like this Magneton is in pretty good shape. Probably not something I would grade, but that back is really clean. You can see that clean deep blue. One of my favorite things about old back Japanese, if not my favorite. The front does have some issues, so go ahead and move that to the bulk. And yeah, you can see some of these issues with the sleeves are like completely bent out of shape, probably in a box. Just kept there for so many years, and the guy walked it out of the closet, and we'll actually move that one over because it's much cleaner. And now that, you know, Pokemon is so crazy, he is cashed that in for 2 million yen. And I'm gonna be honest, like having gone through some of the later cards, like this for the age of this collection, I do think that he or she took great care of all these cards. Like a lot of these sleeves are quite rigid though. Like I don't foresee any tens, but I just like seeing generally clean vintage cards. And yeah, like the way some of these cards are, like they did not get taken out of the sleeve at all. So yeah, I'll be doing this over and over for the rest of the 200 some odd cards. And this is just one example of a bunch of purchases that get made in order to like build out submissions or like raw cards to be sold online or at card shows. Wow, this is really clean. It just so happens that this purchase is much bigger than many of the others, and like to be able to source something like this of this size in Japan itself, walking around the card shops, I do think it definitely would have cost much more money, but there is a trade off in like many of these cards I wouldn't even bother to look at. So Maybe in the interest of time, what would actually be better is if I did the sleeving and some of the oohing and awing on condition checking later, just because of how slow this is moving. I'll just do this one last one with this Ryko and put it here. And probably what everyone's here to see is actually just the actual cards themselves, right? So yeah, got a couple Entei. Yeah, we've got 2 sets of the dogs or the cats or whatever. One of my favorite cards of all time, T17 Typhlosion Japanese. So such a good alternative value for that type of card in English, given its premium. So yeah, you can kind of get a sense that a lot of the Neo old back stuff are like not what I bought the collection for. It's going to be mostly in the promos and the E-Series vintage. Yeah, you can like you can see the matte on these sleeves. So yeah, so we're just gonna kind of blaze through this and can eyeball the cards that are just kind of middle of the road versus which ones are going to be a little bulkier. So got some more in like higher tier stuff with these Venusaurs and Charizards, Raichu. Yeah, this is how you know that somebody like grew up on this stuff. This is truly somebody's childhood collection are those sleeves. Yeah, so we've got some base sets. So right now we're just going through like main sets. Nothing too crazy. A lot of the stuff is like, even if it's not super clean, like it'll go up on eBay. This is not the type of stuff that really does too well at shows. But like eBay, somebody filling out a set would be happy to, pick up an LP of a vintage holo for, below $20 or whatever it goes for. The one's a little heavier. Sadly, no rarity for these. Got some jungle. I looked at this earlier. It's pretty clean. So some fossil hollows. So right now this side is more so like bulk stuff, and so now we're going into some gym era. So this is a very well like curated and organized collection. So I try to keep it in the order that it came in when it was shipped, and like the seller very deliberately organized everything off by eras. Very nice. Some Alakazam. I got 4 Alakazams. Really been into this Rhydon lately. And we got some Rockets. Like, the Scyther, you can tell on the bottom left it's got something. And the top right. This one looked a little bit cleaner. No, they're both kind of rough. Some Gyarados, some Koga Ditto, Moltres, Erika's, Dragonair, Rockets, Mewtwo. Gym leaders. So, yeah, as mentioned, like already, about 100 cards, maybe 80 cards in, and it's not too exciting so far. Like, there's just stuff kind of run in the mill, like vintage holos, especially when the packs came with 1 holo in every pack. Like, these aren't rare cards, but these are the originals, so they're always good. They're just kind of like staples in a sense. So move into the promos here, and yeah, the Southern Island stuff has really taken off in popularity recently, especially these reverses. So very nice. Got a light Arcanine, light Dragonite, back in some Neo actually. This is just me kind of shuffling through earlier. Man, this moon is crazy on the Crobat. It almost has like a 3D effect where it doesn't have the hollow, so it really looks like it's like popping out. All right, so yeah, so Web Magikarp. So I think now we start to get into the area where it like this pile of more like headliners, anchors of the collection. I think this is where the value really starts to show up for this collection. So that would be there, and this is when the cards start to become like you really have to look at the cards and make a decision on what to do with them. This Butterfree has been really popular lately. This Arcanine is amazing. This Entei, Sudowoodo. Really love the Sudowoodo, the hollow pattern, and multiple Sudowoodo kind of running at you. This one came unsleeved too. It survived, luckily. The back isn't too bad. It's got some wear on it, but the front is amazing. This Lantern. And maybe off camera you saw, but got the Altomeris cards. And again, another sign of someone's childhood collection is the hollow sleeve that is all worn out. So you'll be seeing that on a few more cards. Fear not. Does not mean the cards are fake. Man, I was looking at this card the other day, and I don't know, like what like the blues and the teal for the water really pop with that hollow. One of these days, maybe I'll be using a different camera to showcase cards, but I gotta look at it a little bit closer, and I don't think the camera can capture that. Yeah, these cards will always be some of my favorites. So, and because these two are in LP condition, they might just end up being graded, just to get that lower grade, like a 6 or a 7. There's always going to be value there. This one's probably worth looking at for condition. And again, these two probably headline the entire collection. May not sound impressive initially, but I looked at this one. This one's probably LP plus. This one's closer near mint. So even if this one were to 8 and the Umbreon were to 6 or 7, we're probably talking. I don't know what a PSA 8 of that is, but 6 and 7. I sold a 7 of this fairly recently for 2,200. So we're talking the cost of the whole collection at 13K. And with currency, I paid a little bit less, but we're around up to 13. Like at 2K for PSA 7, that is a significant portion already of the total. There's still all this, so usually when like I go through this whole list of cards and you notice a few that stand out, and then you start doing some of the mental math in your head, and you're like, okay, maybe this could work. Especially when like, for me, if it's at worst, like if at worst I break even, like sure I did put in all the labor to put in the money, could have been put better somewhere else, checking cards, sending them to grading, selling them raw, posting them on eBay, and after everything that's said and done, if I were to break even, it doesn't feel great, but at worst, like, it's not too bad in my opinion because the upside is there. Like, I still haven't gone through like this stack yet, and already like there's a pretty fat stack of cards that, like, depending like if they're graded or if they're sold raw, there's value there, and that can't be denied. So that's kind of a long-winded way of me saying like there's upside to this purchase, and you got to look at the anchors first, obviously the big cards, and see how that impacts the rest of them. Got a Macargo and this like very old very old janky sleeve. McDonald's Bulbasaur, I haven't seen one of these in a while. This Chikorito is quite clean. So we've got some McDonald's cards. Yeah, I'm putting them in here. Like, I know they're not worth. Actually, I'll move them to this side. Got the Energies, a Mewtwo. Got some mid-era hollows. Saw this one earlier. It's pretty messed up. This card stands out because one of the signs that we were like booming now was I posted a PSA 10 of this on eBay at like asinine price, like $800, and somebody hit buy it now. Like the type of stuff that I just don't have too much words for. And by now it's probably a bit of a tired topic, but like there are many forces at play when it comes to the abstract term of the market and where we're headed and why we're booming, and trying to unpack the reasons as to why. I looked at this earlier. It's very clean. Definitely some potential there. And I'm trying to think of how to like cleanly say this without going off and rambling again, but I'll say this is that like now more than ever, and I can't believe I'm saying this because last year I had a similar take with vendors entering the space, but now more than ever, like so many businesses. So like there's so many businesses starting, and it's not just like vendor, seller, scalper, etc. Not only those, like there's more and more people trying to start their own business. But now, like if we were to think back to September, October, with the it's actually November-ish, the institutional money coming in. That's a bit of a tired term by now. Like it was very easy to look at the industry players are involved, who have been involved for such a long time, like PSA, for example. That's probably a dead giveaway. But now, like there are so many startup like startup repacking companies that are VC funded, and like when we think of the whole like kind of supply, the whole landscape of cards that are like readily available, graded cards that are readily available, and the fact that like the arena clubs of the world or courtyards or PSA, etc., and that whole partner network is trying to like source cards at insane volume. And now not only that, there's all these startup repackers coming into the space. My favorite card, like it's just amplified to levels that like I don't even know. That's why I'm not the right person to speak on this, because like the more and more I think about it, the like the further my brain starts to break even more. Coro promo. The further my brain starts to break, and then I just want to like look at these cards and help myself chill out. So yeah, these are all Coro promos. These are not Coro. This is ANA. And maybe the one-liner to just kind of get us out of this market talk is there's so many different hands involved for different reasons that are contributing to the market activity outside of just seller, maybe someone like myself, like building inventory to sell to a collector. Like now it's a whole lot of like speculating mixed in with their collection purchase. Tried and true model of collecting, like Pokemon being what NFTs always wanted to be, perhaps. And now you see that NFT, the money from that era coming in. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just so many different forces and amounts of capital entering in the last year or so. Ancient Mew, Nintendo era. Saw that earlier. Last old back card of all time. Saw this earlier before leaving, and man, look at that deep blue. There are surface scratches on it, but I'm going to grade it anyway because this deep blue is just so glossy. This card is historical in my opinion because it is the last old back card ever. Came out in 2002. All right, let's just wind this down. We're already at what, 31 minutes? I got a web bill. So interesting Imakuni here. Got McDonald's Zapdos, McDonald's Umbreon. Let's take a look at this one. And it might have just damaged the card there. Nope. Alright, so I did not do this, but I am seeing like it's kind of curved upwards here. You can see it where the light kind of reflects off of it. Right there, you can, along the top, that's where the issue is. Likely a storage thing on the seller's end, like all these years having the card, even if it's sleeved, if it's just stacked against another card or under a bunch of cards. But still, it is clean enough to warrant its own comp on the card. And yeah, as I've worked through like these cards, you can kind of see how the stacks have formed, where you have this pile of cards that make up like much higher values, kind of mid-tier cards that like maybe in the right condition they kind of belong in the left-hand pile. McDonald's Togepi, don't see that too often anymore. The T promos is going to be a fun one, but we've got a full Slowpoke to Slowbro, Slowking T promo. These are out of order, but we got the birds. Pretty solid. The Johto mid-tier starters. Yeah, these are example of cards that are extremely collectible because you can only get them as part of the trainer magazines. So, Dragonite, full Tease promo set. I didn't look at these two, but the Dragonite was very clean, so that'll be sent off for grading. My my stellar memory of this set is like I graded a sequential PSA 10 set of these three, sold for $600 on eBay. So we're here now though, and I have another set, and I'm just happy to have a chance at grading them or just having them again. Another favorite of mine, Imakuni Exploud Whismur set. So ADV glossy promos, extremely difficult to grade, play promos, and we're gonna wind this down with some English. This is just random. I don't know how you ended up with this. I did look at the conditions of them. This one's for the Alakazam's clearly very rough, very very much loved, but it's a shadowless. Shadowless anything is good, and that's it. So If you made this far, thank you for hearing me ramble. I think this is gonna turn out to be a very good collection purchase. What the values end up at the end, only time will tell. Most of this won't even be immediately ready for sale, just because the additional processing that goes into it. Like, even though there's like kind of three overall piles of like headliner bigger cards, most likely going to get graded. This middle tier is going to be split up as well between grading, non-grading, shows, eBay. We have a more bulkier pile. Most of it will probably end up on eBay. But even then, after that, I've got to tag everything, ID everything, assign prices to them based on these anchors. And then, like the ones that go off for grading, I'm not going to see them for several months. So I don't think there will be a follow up on this, to be honest. Like, the biggest thing here is pricing them out and valuing them and getting them processed in my system. And then after that, like, it's much cleaner. Maybe there's like a tag I could add to my spreadsheet, to my inventory tracker that says that they're part of this collection, and then I can just filter that. But now I'm just yapping out loud and thinking out loud. But that's about it. Thank you. Bye.